Alright, so the other thing that we went over as a concept in class was about the 3D tools, and that's what the in-book assignment is. How to use these 3D tools for some very simple things. So the 3D in Flash is very rudimentary, so you're not going to obviously, build whole characters or tanks or anything and have them move around like a video game. The point of this is to do things like spinning things in space or making them look as if they're aiming towards the camera. So I've got this, little card here. It's got a few bars on it so you guys can see how it spins around. And we're going to, sorry, the headset's weird. So I'm going to show you why you would need to use this for making something look like it's coming closer towards you, because just general scaling is not going to work. So why would general scaling not work? Well, I'm going to turn on motion tweening, and I'm going to use actually I can use this right here. And I'm going to scale this. Whoops, I should be at the beginning. There we go. And I'm going to scale this down. Oh, what on earth? Beginning. Oh. There we go. Now we're going to scale this down. And then we're going to go to the end. Scale this up. And we're going to turn down the frame rate a little bit so it can take up a little bit more time. If you watch it, you'll see what's happening. Well, it's getting closer and then it's fast, slows down, fast, and then slow. That happens because it's scaling linearly, right? It's scaling, from 10% to 100% linearly. But things do not scale linearly to us visually if they're moving towards us. What happens is that, let me create motion tween here. They actually get bigger exponentially. So they're getting bigger and then more bigger and then more bigger, and that's what they look like to us when they're scaling. So the way around this is to use under position and size are here, and that's the normal stuff, but you have a 3D position view. And so I'm going to use this Z. I'm going to go into positive numbers. Positive numbers put it further away from you, like it's pushing into the screen here. And if I want it to look really small, I actually have to go pretty small. So that's the first key. The second key, I'm going to go into negative numbers. I'm going to go into making it look like it's, let's say negative 200. That puts it closer to us, right? Put it much closer to us. There we go. I can also kind of center it a little bit so it looks like it's moving towards me. And if we watch this, you're going to see how that kind of accelerates as it's coming towards us? That's how things should look if they're coming towards you. So that's one very simple way you can use this Z position right here to your advantage. You can take several things and position them at various places on the Z-axis, and you can move them forwards and backwards, and they'll look like they're scaling. They'll also look like they're scaling. If you wanted to go by the side of you, normally you'd have to do both the position and the scale and kind of tie them to each other, and it would kind of look weird. But all you have to do is have it go off to the side. There we go. And it kind of ties together for you. You don't have to alter how fast it scales in order to make it look right. Alright, so that's one way to do this. Let's undo. The other thing you can do, and this is a little bit trickier, and this is what the book has you working with. I'm going to bring that back to 0. There we go. Is the 3D spinning. Like, right, if we use this free transform tool, we can spin along one axis. Technically, we're spinning along the Z-axis because Z is what goes into the thing. Oh, that's still key. Remove tween. Sometimes getting rid of tweens can be a little bit tricky. There we go. So create motion tween. So instead of this free transform tool, we're going to use this tool. It's called the 3D rotation tool. And It is a little tricky in just that it works funny. It doesn't necessarily look correct. So I'm going to move to the end, and you can see there's a green line here, a red line here, and a blue line here. Blue is X, green is Y, I'm sorry, red is X, green is Y, and blue is Z. And that's how it is always in any program, not just Flash. But if we want it to look like it's rotating kind of from side to side, I'm going to hover over the Y-axis, and I know it's Y because my cursor has a little Y next to it. And I'm going to pull that. Come on. There we go. And you can see it's a little squiggly. It's a little like it doesn't want to listen to you. There we go. It's also going in the wrong direction. That's awesome. But you can see I put those lines in there on purpose. You can see it now looks like it's going in space. Now, one reason to use this is just to make something look like it's going back in space. It's got perspective without having to use a skew tool, which is what you would use in Photoshop usually. So if you're setting up a background and you just want to make a sign look like it's, turned in space, all you have to do is turn it and leave it there. You don't even have to bring animation into it. But obviously you can also animate it to make things look like they're flipping around. There we go. Now it does get a little hairy because it does not quite listen to you always. So if I try to spin it all the way around, I've got about 180. If I wanted it to go another 180, I would need a separate tween because Flash, if you go more than 180 degrees, it takes the shortest distance and then goes back around the other side. The other thing is that you want to be really careful about not necessarily bringing a second axis into this, because once you get two axes going, it becomes really weird, right? I can do one. There we go. Right here. Come on. There we go. And you can see it doesn't go very far. Come on. There we go. You have to be very careful about where you drag your mouse. There we are. So now we got this postcards in space look. Looks like it's kind of flying forward. So, using one axis at a time to position something, very easy. Once you start trying to use a second one, it can sometimes look a little funny. And you can see it's going to do that, which is not necessarily how I wanted it to behave. Yeah, there we go. You can't separate these two out. You can't have it turn one and then the other. So, but the homework is doing 3 different exercises from the book, pages 96 through 101, I believe, but they are a 3D card flip. So it's basically got a nice little playing card right here, and they're going to have you rotating it around. Something slightly more complicated, which involves a butterfly. I don't think... Oh, there's already animation on it. I have to fix the file for you. But you're basically going to do this, right? Give it a little bit of animation. Make sure you pay attention to when he tells you things like, going into a file, because right now you can see nothing's happening. That's because the animation is inside here. It's inside a movie clip. So make sure you do that. Make sure you actually go into the movie clip to do the animation. If you try to do it out here, it's gonna be funny and weird and not look right. The other thing to pay attention to is that, come on, there we go. Make sure your anchor point, that you set it down here at the edge of the butterfly wing before you actually animate anything. It's really easy. You just move it. If you just click on the center, you can move it wherever. But you want to do that before you add any animation, because if you try to do it afterwards, if I try to move this now, it's going to look really weird. Right? It can get kind of screwy. So you want to make sure you do that first. The third thing is actually, it's nothing to do with 3D at all. It's just a good exercise. There we go. And, well, there's no animation on it yet. Squash and stretch. And he just kind of walks you through a step-by-step look at how you can maybe get this to look like it's squashing and stretching as it hits the ground. Just a little bit of cartoon animation. But I've included these 3 files in an email to you. So you'll be able to move tween. You'll be able to get the animation that you need. The other thing that this butterfly thing does, by the way, is you put the animation on the movie clip itself, like like I said, inside. Come on, there we go, inside the wing. And since there's a second copy of the wing, both get animated, and you don't have to do anything. It's just both are animated, and you just move one away from the other, and they'll be on this butterfly body right here. All right, so you want to do the card one first because it's the simpler one, then the butterfly, and then the squash and stretch.